Hi there, I'm Mike Garska with SuccessToolChest.com and FindAMentor.com. Welcome to Wednesday mornings, 10 a.m. Help Me Communicate. Today I'm here to give you some tips on how to approach difficult situations, potential conflict situations, sensitive situations, and that kind of thing. What's the best way to approach it? What are the right questions to ask? And so we're going to talk first about all communications courses tell us that the first step in effective communicating is to become aware of what's going on for myself and for the other person. It's always the first step in effective communication solutions. And so what do we want to become aware of? What is the process that we go through for awareness? Well, the process starts with what I call the human interaction process, the HIP. It's called communicating from the hip. And it's something that all of us do all day long. It's how we communicate with other people. And understanding this process is critical to effective communications. Understanding what to become aware of is critical to effective communications. And so what to become aware of? We become aware of our hip. That's the first part of any sensitive situation communication process, effective communications process. Become aware of what I'm sensing. The first part of the hip is that one of our 5 physical senses kicks in. We either hear something, or we see something, or we taste, smell, or touch something. But typically in communicating, we're seeing things or hearing words. And once that happens, we start to get a thought process. We think about what we just witnessed, what we just heard, and what we just saw. The third phase part of this process is that we invoke an emotion. Emotion goes with thoughts. And often we're not aware of what emotion we're feeling. It's very subtle, but there is always an emotion. People think and feel most of the day. Even when we're dreaming, we're actually thinking and feeling. And so when we're communicating with other people, we sense something, then we think about it, then we get a feeling. And from those 3 processes, we get an intention. And in this process, that intention comes out of what we just witnessed, what we think about it, how we feel about it, and then we want something. That's the intention. And we choose our actions out of that intention and that first 4 steps of the process: sense, think, feel, intend, and then we act. That's what we do. And so when we're approaching a conflict situation, the first step is to become aware of my hip, my human interaction process. What did I just hear? What words did I hear? How do I feel about it? What are my thoughts? What do I want? And in that process of where we analyze what we want, what in fact we're all doing is we're selling ourselves. In that intention part of the human interaction process, we all become a salesperson. We sense, think, and feel, and we want something to come out. And it's in the sales process that typically communication begins to break down. We don't get our intentions across clearly and effectively. And so in a conflict situation, we put the other person on the defensive. We don't sell them on our intent. And that is a very important part of finding resolution to conflict, is to get clear on the intent. So the first step of approaching a difficult situation is to become aware of my hip. The second step is to sell my intent. And the best salespeople in the world, and I did sales for 30 years, both sales management and managing teams and teaching people on sales. And what I found in my 30 years of sales experience is that the best salespeople are actually the best questioners and listeners. They're not the best talkers. And so what questions do we ask if we, in a conflict situation, we want to get our intent across and we want to find out what's going on for the other person? So the best questions to ask are to ask about their hip, their human interaction process. What words did you actually hear? Because often people will hear different words than what I've heard, or they'll interpret them differently. And so I want to ask, what words did you hear? Or what did you witness? What did you see? When you saw that and heard those words, what were the thoughts that you had? And I find out about the thoughts. I'll try to uncover the emotion. Now, often people have a struggle with identifying and articulating emotion, so I might lead them along. Did you feel frustrated? Did you feel angry? Did you feel excited? Did you feel invoke some persistence or patience that make you want to work hard, try harder? What emotion came up? And what do you want out of this? So the questions to ask in approaching conflict is first to ask myself about my hip, and then to ask the other person about their hip. And when we approach any conflict or sensitive situation with full awareness of what's going on for me and what's going on for the other person, typically it's easier to find resolution. Focus on the intent. What does the other person want? What do I want? Make sure both people's intention is on the table, because typically people's intentions are good, especially in a work environment and even in a social environment. People want good things. And the approach to achieving or to getting what we want, what our intention is, often different and often doesn't work because we're not clear and sharing what the intent is. So find out the intent. It's one of the best tips. So your tip for approaching conflict today is to analyze your human interaction process, ask questions about the other person's human interaction process, broaden the awareness. That's the first thing you do. And ask questions. The questions you ask are about their hip. So that's in preview, some quick tips on how to approach those difficult situations. If you want more tips and thorough understanding of how to approach conflict and then how to navigate through it as the conversation goes, take the Contact Communications and Masterminding program at Success Tool Chest. It's only $89, the price of a good concert ticket, or the price of live streaming on pay-per-view a good fight. Is your communications worth $89, or the price of a concert ticket? How people communicate determines the level of success that we reach in our life. So I trust that $89 is a really fair price. In fact, it's a 54% discount on the normal price, so take advantage of it now. The 54% discount goes away in a few weeks here, a couple weeks. It's a good idea to sign up. It's 5 hours of video training. The second part of this program is I want to give you some tips on an effective review process for employees. One of my specialties is coaching family business managers and owners on running an effective business and communicating with their teams and inspiring their teams and motivating their teams. And one of the best tools that I found for helping businesses achieve their goals and communicating with their teams is a good review system. How many people here think that two-way communications is better than one-way communications? Everybody put your hand up. I'm sure that most people agree that two-way communications in any situation is better than one-way communications. And so when I am coaching people on developing their review system for employees, I suggest that they develop a two-way communications process, structure it into the review system by having review forms that allow for that process. And so when I'm building review forms for organizations, I make sure that the first part of the review is anonymous and it's getting feedback about the company and how the company is doing, how they think the company is doing. Now, this information is valuable to the management. They get an idea of how the employees are perceiving their company, and it allows them to decide whether adjustments are necessary in their structure. One of the biggest complaints that we get from actually both ends of a company, the management team and the work team, is the complaints about communication and information flow. It's rarely good enough for the managers or the employees. And so what we want to do is enhance information and communication flow using review systems. It's one of the steps, one of the things that you can put into your business to structure effective information and communication flow is a healthy review system. Number one, make it consistent. So my recommendation is, and in Canada here, we get 3 months for employees for probation. So make sure that if a person is going to get past the probation period and get that, be allowed to continue to work past the 3 months, give them a review. It's an opportunity to give them positive feedback, and we know that positive feedback motivates employees. It's an opportunity for you to get some fresh information on how employees perceive the company. In that first part of the review system, getting feedback on the company. Allow it to be anonymous. Ask questions about the leadership, about the communication and information flow. If it's a construction company, ask questions about the safety program. Ask questions about the training. Just 4 or 5 quick questions to give feedback on the company. And when will you do that for the employee? It actually engages them in the review process. They get a perception that their opinions matter because the company wants to hear their opinions on how they view and rate the company. In my review forms, I suggest that we give a 1 to 4 or 5 rating. Typically a poor, fair, good, or excellent rating. And excellent doesn't mean perfect. Excellent means that the person excels at a particular category above other people at that same level. So first part of a good review system is to get feedback on the company. Then identify about 10 to 15 different aspects of each position's job and have the individual rate themselves on those aspects of their job, on learning, on punctuality, on attendance, on their computer skills if that's part of their job, on their carpenter skills if they're a construction person, on their communication skills if they're a salesperson, but find different aspects of the job and have the individual rate themselves. Then the second part of the review process is to have the supervisor rate the employee on those same aspects. And we get conversation going, we get information and communication flowing going. We manage expectations in that process. The employee gives us his rating, and he or she may have a skewed vision of how they're performing in this particular spot. Sometimes the review, the employers thinks, or the supervisor thinks that the employee is doing better than they think they're doing. So it allows for two-way communication and effective expectation management of the employee, and it gives the supervisor an opportunity to tell the employee what they're doing good at and what they're not doing good at. When you're giving an employee feedback on what they're not doing good at, it's important to remember that on each side of that negative feedback, we call it a shit sandwich, to give them some positive things. Tell them what they're doing good in their job. Then tell them what their corrective actions are needed and what they did wrong, and then give them some more positives and finish the interaction with positives. Also, though, make sure that there's an agreement on how this person is going to progress forward if they've made a mistake. So that's a good two-way review system. Get some feedback on the company, make sure that the employee rates themselves, then the supervisor rates the employee. That way we get all on the same page. And how often do you do reviews? Well, for sure at 3 months after the probation period. And sometimes the employee, with that 3-month probation period, it's an opportunity to let them go if they're not doing well. But if they're just on the verge, there's also opportunity to get them to sign that they're doing okay in these areas, but if they can't improve in another area, we're going to give them another 3 months to see if they can improve in this particular area. So it's a chance or an opportunity for the employer to extend the probation period as well. You just get them to sign off on that they're being put on 3 months probation, another 3 months probation. And if they don't improve in that next 3 months, then maybe it's time to replace them or find somebody else. It's okay to find people that gel with the culture of the company or the teams that they're working within, and it's okay to let people go. It's better for them and the company if there isn't a good fit. So use that 3-month probation period as your guideline for whether to keep people or not to keep them, and then give them a review if they're worth keeping. And at least once a year or once every 2 or 3 years, make sure that they get a review on their performance in that same format. Get some feedback for the company, give some feedback to the individual, and make sure that you're managing expectations and perceptions on how both people think, the supervisor and the employee think the employee is doing. And that process allows for effective information communication flow. It allows for natural mentoring in a business environment, and people will appreciate it. They'll stay longer. It'll improve your retention initiatives and your training initiatives. Good review systems improve retention and training. So make sure you have a good review system in place for your business. That's tips on business tips on effective communicating for today. Words to avoid. Every Wednesday we'll give you some words to avoid and some replacement words for that. And today's words to avoid are everyone and no one. Why do we avoid the words everyone and no one? Because quite frankly, when I use the word everyone thinks like this and everyone thinks you need to do that, or no one thinks like you do, no one is taking this approach. When I use everyone and no one, I'm actually lying. And I'm invoking negative emotion in the other person, thereby putting them on the defensive and allowing them to disengage. And the objective of healthy communications is to keep people engaged. That's what we're intending to do, and getting them to agree with us and move forward towards progress. So when I use the word everyone or no one, I'm putting them on the defensive and I'm allowing them to disengage. Why is that? Why is using the word everyone and no one a lie? Because there are 7 billion different people on the planet, and each person has its own unique DNA. As well, each person has his and her own unique HIP process, human interaction process. And I guarantee you, if one person's human interaction process is to think a particular way about an event or words that they heard or what they witnessed, there's going to be another person on the planet that would respond in the same way. Out of 7 billion people, there's going to be more than one that responds in this way. So if I say everyone thinks this or no one thinks that, I'm actually lying. And by saying, instead of using everyone and no one, I use most people or many people, or I use very few or few. And by using many, most, few, or very few, I am allowing the person to accept that they, yes, made a mistake, and there are other people that made that same mistake as them. And this is my opinion. I'm sharing that everyone thinks this or no one thinks that. Most people think this or few people think that. I'm sharing the fact that I allow them, that there's other people like them. They're not the only ones. There is opportunity for improvement. And so the simple rule of the day is stop using everyone and no one and use the word most or few. Great little tip. The other thing we do every Wednesday is give people a tip for self-talk. And today's tip for self-talk is to avoid the word should. Replace it with the word could. Now, this actually applies to both self-talk and communicating with other people. When we use the word could, we allow people the option, and we allow ourselves the option of choice. One of our greatest gifts as people is our option or our power to choose. And when I use the word could with myself, it gives me an opportunity to feel a little bit less negative about myself. When I say to myself, I should have done this, or I should have done that, or oh my goodness, I'm invoking and perpetuating that negative emotion. Should invokes guilt and negative emotion. And what I want to do to progress forward in success in my life, or helping others to progress forward in success, is to reduce the amount of negative emotion that I invoke in myself or in other people. And one of the ways to do that is to avoid use of the word should and replace it with the word could, which allows me the opportunity to know that I could have made a better decision, and next time I will make a better decision because I could have last time, so instead of should. Just a little tip, but all these subtle little things, all these subtle words keep people in positive states of progress. And if you want to engage people, keep them in a positive state of progress. Avoid using words that put them on the defensive and allow them to disengage. Using soft, gentle words, even when we're giving negative feedback, helps keep people engaged, helps show them that they have opportunity to grow, to learn, and to get better next time. Please, I hope you enjoyed today's program. Use your words effectively and put in your effective employee review system if you're a business owner. Approach your conflict using an awareness of your human interaction process and ask questions about the other person's human interaction process. Those are the tips for today. If you want a PDF and a little bit more information on the HIP, the human interaction process, go to successtoolchest.com, click on the HIP Effective Awareness Communications Tool, get the free download PDF, or watch the free video, and just get a fuller perspective on how that HIP works and yourself and in other people. It'll help you communicate. Take the contact communications course. How we communicate determines our level of success both in personal and professional life. The Contact Communications and Masterminding program at Success Tool Chest is a 5-hour video program that you can take at your leisure. It's only $89, less than the price of a good fight streaming pay-per-view ticket or a good concert ticket. And I believe that our communication is worth that $89. They don't teach us this stuff in school. If they did, we wouldn't have so much dysfunction in our communication. And in fact, I was just listening to my wife tell me about a physician that was going to do a presentation at a national physician conference. And he was talking about a proper approach to patients and coworkers. And he finished his conversation, his talk, with, "Don't be a jerk." Well, one of the worst things we can do when we're communicating with people is using labeling and negative labeling and name calling. And if I finish my talk off with "don't be a jerk," I'm implying that at some point you're being a jerk, and so I'm invoking negative emotion. Avoid invoking negative emotion. Avoid using negative labeling and name calling. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the next video, next Wednesday. Go out and make it an awesome day. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye for now.